Hi Andre, this is Emmeline for Assignment 3. Let's look at question 1. So you can see the two separate buffers, one for view and projection and one for world. If we look in the DX app, you can see the camera calls view and projection once, and each of the individual objects call their own world matrix. So let's go ahead and run that. And there's that. Now on to question 2. So here you can see the one new model, which is a pre-made unit pyramid. And if we look over here, here are all the vertices and indices, and if we run that, there's the triangle. And on to question 3. Here you can see we're having a box, a unit pyramid, and a sphere. Here you can see we call the view and projection once, and then we have to set to context for each of the ones, so they have this create context, and then we render them. And then if I click run, there you can see all three with the same shader. Now moving on to question 4, I believe. Okay, so for question 4, here you can see we have 3 models, but we're rendering 4, so model 1 will be used twice, which is addressing further work 1. So if we come down here, we can see we load our initial shader, so we have 2 shaders being loaded, and then we set model 1. And then using the same model, so using model 1, we set it to a different world matrix, and then for the second shader, we load our second shader, and then we render the sphere and the triangle. So let's go ahead and run that. Okay, so here's this, and just to emphasize for further work 1, you can use the same model, but change the shader or the color or the world matrix, and have 2 different things show up. Then for question 5, here's this. So if we look at the model class, you can see here is my create unit sphere. You can see I have edge cases for both of the poles, so here's that one for the one pole, and here's the one for the other pole. And then here is the indice list and the vertex list. If we go ahead and run that, you can see that's here right there in the middle. That's with like 100 slices, just to show that it handles a large case well. And then finally for further work 2, because I already addressed further work 1 earlier, I had made a shader class. So if we look in DX app, I just paused it. If we look in DX app, if we go up to where the shaders are loaded, all it does is pass my shader class the device, the path, the layout, and the layout size, and then in shader, it gets initialized with those values and creates the pixel and vertex shader using those values. I also move the compile shader from file to the shader class, and so it just uses those shaders, and then the shader class also has a set to context, which is used to initialize the shaders before the objects are rendered. So that's all for me.